Welcome to the ID10T podcast number 1048. If you go to wizardguitar.com, that will take you to the tour page for my stand-up tour for the Wizard Guitar Tour 2020, coming to the Punchline in San Francisco, Feb 27 through 29, Punchline in Sacramento, March 5 through 7, the Brea Improv, March 21st, then Helium in Portland, then the Wilbur in Boston, then Comedy Works in Denver, Minneapolis after that, a bunch of others. Again, wizardguitar.com. Come on out, for crap's sake. But let's talk about you, the ID10T community. Like Albie, who writes, after being depressed over not having a career path and no creative outlet, I finally realized that I could just hope for change to happen to me. So I've written a horror book called Noisy River, which takes place in a fictionalized version of the town I grew up in New Mexico. I also started to aggressively pursue a career in voiceover. I'm now a little more than a year in. I've worked in animation, video games, and films. It's been tough, but this is the happiest I've been in a long time. Thank you, Albie. Thank you for sharing that. Albie's website is albieroblesvoice.com, which is ALBIEROBLES voice.com. And the book is available on Amazon by searching Noisy River. Well done. This podcast is, dare I say, an extra special episode? It's extra special because it's, first of all, so Drew Scott, who's been on before, Drew and Jonathan, of course, the Property Brothers, who I think are most of HGTV at this point, but with Property Brothers and Brother versus Brother and Forever Home. They also have furniture and a cool, they make mattresses and a cool magazine. Like they're a friggin' industry and like two of the nicest guys. And so it may not surprise you, or it probably won't, because if you probably already know this, but Drew's wife, Linda, is also so nice and super rad. And so Drew and Linda started a podcast called At Home with Linda and Drew Scott. And I did it, I think it came out like a month ago. But at the time, Lydia was not able to attend. I think she was working. So I said, hey, maybe it'd be cool if you came on this episode with Drew and Linda. And she was like, sure. So Lydia is on this episode. So it's me and my wife Lydia and Drew and Linda just being couples AF. I mean, talking renovation and restoration and couplehood and relationships. It was, I mean, just, it was a dream podcast because it really was just the four of us like hanging out, and it just so happened to be recorded. And I got to talk Lydia into doing more of these because she's the best. It was really special. So if you get a chance after this podcast, go wherever it is that you enjoy getting your podcasts and listen to At Home with Linda and Drew Scott right after the ID10T podcast number 1048 with Drew, Linda Scott, and Lydia Hurst-Hardwick.
Initiating ID10T protocol.
This is a little smaller than your podcast room.
This is great. I love it.
But it's a similar...
I love that you're joining us.
Yeah.
I know, I don't usually do
Well, that's... Yeah, Lydia.
these are podcasts. I feel like people try to get to know me and I hide.
Well, we did a podcast together. Lydia and I did a podcast together. Our friend Michael Rosenbaum and Chris Sullivan did one. A couples podcast, and we did that one. But I think, have you ever popped on you popped up on the Kenda podcast like years ago?
I chime in now and again.
I need to get your bag out there.
Okay.
Do you want?
Sure.
Can't. No, I just gonna get her bag.
Sorry.
So you popped in on that one? On the
Well, it's more like I sit in and I silently observe. I try, and then Chris will sometimes try to bring me in, and I just make gestures and nod.
Well, we wanted you to come on ours,
like, yeah.
but I think you were away, or you had an was it audition or something? There was something that you
something I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but you were. There was a reason you couldn't do it, and so when we booked you for this one, I was like, "Well, Lydia has to be here for this, so we can, like do some couples renovation talk.
Yes.
Is that another word for therapy?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Well, as I said, because Leanne and Steve Ford were on, and we were talking
I
about
listened to that one.
the sort of secondary show to watch when you're watching any of the like House Hunters or any of any of the Property Brothers shows. Is this couple gonna make it game based on like how not just how similar their tastes are, but how they sort of deal with each other. You sort of look for the microaggressions, and you look for the and Lydia and I go, oh yeah, there's a couple.
They're not going to last. No. Give them a year.
Yeah,
You should have a running like a board, because there are couples that don't make it past.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like,
Yeah.
Like any other couple.
Well, we had one, I can't remember if I told you this, but we had this one couple where the husband and wife, their communication was terrible. And she, sadly, she was like a tyrant. And so, he was doing anything, like she was the dominant one in the relationship there. And at one point, John was talking with the husband about doing this, opening up this one wall. John was talking to the wife and said, should we check with your husband about opening up this wall? And she's like, he'll do what I tell him to do.
Whoa!
And we're like, that's a little aggressive.
And you also have to imagine that when people are on TV, they're putting their best foot forward.
That's
Well,
sad.
we try to edit. We literally try to edit to make everyone look great. We're not trying to make
No,
people
of
look
course
bad.
not. It's not a dramatic.
No, but at the end of the day, we say to people, if you're nervous about being on camera or whatever, we're like, if you are an asshole, you'll look like an asshole.
We can't edit the asshole out.
Well, but that's the interesting thing was that when reality television, when like docuseries first started, after that first season of The Real World in like whatever it was, 90 or 91 or whatever, and then my ex-girlfriend Jacinda was on season 4, the London Real World, and when all the Real World kids, they all had this similar experience where they'd watch the shows when they got edited together, and they'd all be like, what the fuck? Because
Well, they were trying to make them look bad.
well,
right?
no,
Or,
it's
like,
not that they were
create
trying to make them look
drama.
bad. They were trying to create drama. So they would shoot. If my understanding was correct, what they would do is, they shot all the time. So there were cameras in the house. They would follow everywhere. And then, as opposed to a scripted show where they write the scripts and then you shoot it, they would shoot everything first and then sort of figure out like, well, what are the
What
characters?
tensions are there?
And so they sort of build characters and like kind of edit stuff together in ways where, Jacinda would say like, yeah, they would take like the beginning of one thing, tack it to the end of something else and put them together. The sentences were said months apart, and neither of them were about the thing that they were applied to
They were probably wearing the same outfit.
No, well, and they would say to them like, "Hey, this isn't exactly." Yes, we said these things, but this isn't exactly how it played out. And then the producers would say like, "Oh, it's not that it's real; it's just a real life based soap opera." Wow. And so I think what sort of happened was, they would sort of create these heightened characters based on editing choices, and then people who wanted to be on the shows would then go, oh, I need to perform a crate.
Yeah.
So you're getting like performance on top of editing and performance. And so I think that's why it seems like there's this curve where people kind of get nuttier and nuttier as seasons progress, because they're going, oh, in order to get attention, I need to be this heightened version. So maybe, I don't know if
like
that's
outdoing the drama. So what we're saying is that reality TV is like the start of fake news.
Oh my god, it's
Yeah.
not
It's just like
real.
edited together.
I mean, it is based on real things, the docuseries, but it's still entertainment, and things still tend to be heightened. But I had so much fun doing your podcast, and so I just thought like, oh, Lids has got to sit in on this, because there's so much that we covered, and I feel like more than half what I was talking about. It's like, oh, well, Lydia likes to do this, and she's the wallpaper person, and she's like the fabric guru. Yeah. It just sort of seemed like, oh, you should be here to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway. So
I just want to see if either Linda or Lydia, the L's, get any word in edgewise, because you and I will get on a tangent of something and just keep going. And then I realize, I just spoke
And
for
I'm
like 15 minutes straight.
I mean, what might actually happen is like what happens at a dinner where you and I have a conversation and they have a separate
Most
conversation.
confusing podcast ever.
We can put our conversation in people's left ear and their conversation in people's
And
right
then
ear.
at the ding, we go diagonally.
Well, I will say, I feel like with the house stuff, and please don't take this the wrong way, I feel like you have it easier because, like, Chris pops in and out, and, like, he'll do the videos, like, so we're doing this, and it's really fun. But, like, I have to live in it
Yeah.
and be there all the time.
But let me.
I can't get mad at that considering that is.
And be
No,
the
it's true.
GC.
And like, yes, I'm
Yeah.
basically the general contractor, and lately I've been the landscaper working machetes and
So this is why I want to
all
ask you,
sorts of
because
things.
you were sort of like venting a little bit to Linda and me the other day about that, but then you take on all these tasks, and I'm like, great. So you got started on things, and then you hand it off to your trades that you hire and pay to do this work, right? And then you're like,
that's
well,
what
no, I started, so I
tried
finished
to
it.
do, but like someone sometimes will come in, and I hate to say it, but like it is frustrating if you're a woman trying to do these things, because a lot of men in like landscaping and construction, and I guess I look young, so they don't take me seriously, and
Right.
they think I don't know what I'm talking about.
So like, where's your dad? Bring your dad out here. And
basically,
let's see.
so then I just have to pick up a machete or pick up the furniture
And so she
attack
does.
them.
myself.
So, like,
well,
Lydia
not
is.
attack them, but maybe attack the garden.
Lydia, like, don't mistake the fact that she's incredibly sweet to suggest that she is a shrinking violet by any means. Like, she will. So we are renovating. Like, we're restoring a place right now. We just started a new project, and there was all this overgrowth. And so she talked to the gardener, and she was like, "Okay, so I want to remove all of this." And we have like a 4-week timeline, and the guy's like,
He looked like a deer in headlights.
He was
and
like, we can't do that.
No, 4 weeks, that's not enough time.
So
if you tell me that you were unable to do something, I take that as a challenge.
So the
Yeah.
next day,
Where I'm like, if you say you can't do something and you're a grown-ass man,
And this is your job. Yeah.
if I can get my 103-pound self out there and do it, then you know
So-
what? No.
I saw, and you went out and did it all yourself.
It looks great out there.
literally within the first day, she had cut down like a quarter of it by like just
And cleared it out.
Like got a dude from TaskRabbit and was like, okay, let's clear all this out. And the gardener came back and he was like, holy shit. Like, one of the other gardeners
Like,
called
he might
him and
have
was like,
pooped
you
his
need to get
pants.
over here now because she's chopping shit down.
Yeah, like I think he pooped his pants a little.
And so
Too.
they got it done in 2 weeks.
See,
Yeah.
now this is what I find very frustrating. We've dealt with renovations since mid-90s. We've been doing what we do for a long time. We've seen it all. We know typically what our timelines will work. We work with some great crews, but every now and then we'll have trades that'll come in and say, oh, this one project, like demoing this wall, they're like, that wall there, and it's not load-bearing. They'll be like, that'll take us, we need a full crew, full guys. It'll take us, 4 solid days. It's going to be about $20,000. I'm like, to remove that wall, $20,000? And all they're doing is they're trying to upcharge us. We call it the property brother charge.
Sure.
So people
Yeah.
will start by trying to upcharge us, and then after that, they realize that we know what we're talking about, what we're doing. We're not going to pay more than what it's worth, or we just get in there. So there's this one guy that said that to Jonathan and me. We're like, this is not a 4-day project with multiple guys. You can do this in no time. Jonathan and I literally went in there and we demoed that wall in 10 minutes. And we removed all of the brick
Yep.
and everything.
Yep.
In another 10 minutes, it was done. I'm like, you're fired.
That's essentially what's wound up happening at our house. But I always get the Hearst family discount.
I've heard
Yeah,
about
I've heard
that.
about that.
Just
It's
the
not a
30%
nice
upcharge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
it's a 30% upcharge.
So
but
frustrating.
But it is. But like that's the thing is that Lydia is this perfect combination of like really sweet, really easy to get along with. But I personally would not fuck with her. Like
Well,
I
it's
just.
really funny because people like,
She has a machete. Why would
She
you?
knows. She like when I came home one day a couple years ago, and she was machete training in the driveway, like
Yeah.
machete fighting. I was like,
Machete
oh, okay.
yeah, it's
All right.
really fun.
Yeah.
It's literally what it sounds like. You're battling someone with real machetes.
So you weren't just
I have-
prepping for the gardening?
No.
This is my question to you regarding the gardening. Machetes aside, so my older brother has this issue where he could get someone to come in and do something, but he likes to do it all and he takes it all on his own. He loves to do it. I don't. I like to get things done quicker when they're actually doing the work.
Right.
Do you add things to your plate that you could? Do you micromanage or do you offload?
I would love to offload. But I think, for better or worse, I have a very artistic brain. So I will see things perhaps in a different way where, if you guys, this is a weird comparison, but if you watch like Homicide Hunter and the Joe Kenda person walks into the scene and then suddenly the whole scene like disappears and he's playing it out in
Shout
his
out
head.
to Carl Marino who plays young Joe Kenda.
But that's sort of how I see the world in everyday life. So it's like I can step into a room and everything can dissolve and I can see the placement and see the settings and see how it all like maps out and plays out. Trying to describe that to someone who doesn't understand how my brain works, it's very hard. So I unfortunately have to kind of be like, no, this is how I micromanage. I mean, I don't mean to bring Kaylin in, but Kaylin and I have done
Kalen's
many
our dear
photo
friend, and
shoots
he's
together.
a great photographer. He shoots pictures for the podcast.
He's amazing, but Kaylin has firsthand experience of learning how my brain operates when I'm like, let's do a shoot, we're going to do this
Look
thing.
at that, knowing that. Kalen's like, yeah.
Like, we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be great. And I'm describing all these things, but not actually saying anything at all, and in my mind it makes perfect sense.
But do you start the explanation, describe, what was that murder show? Which
Homicide
Homicide
Hunter.
Yeah, so do you start talking about Homicide Hunter, and
This
then you
is
pull
what
out your
I'm
machete,
picturing.
and then you try to explain it to him? Because
Right.
I think 99% of people would be afraid.
It's kind of like this murder show that I love. Okay, all
You
right.
come into this dark house with me,
And one of us emerges,
Yeah.
a victor.
But that's really cool. Your brain is basically like the 3D
I just see
rendering that
things
you see
mapped
in these design
out
shows.
in a specific way, and that was part of the problem with the first rug man when I started messaging you before, where I was trying to explain how to properly install a rug, which he should have known since that was his job. But he didn't want to do it, and as I was trying to say, well, you have to cut the border, and it has to follow the path, and it has to go along this route, and there's the steps and the platform, and the wall comes out, so it has to be measured this specific way. And then he just got mad and was like, well, you just don't know what you want. And I was like, well,
I just
actually,
told you
think-
exactly what I
I think
wanted.
the problem is that I do know what I
Yeah.
want, then you don't want to do it. And so it's just, it's a very...
That's so
I mean, I might
frustrating.
be a little either ADD or OCD or both. I don't
you
know. But
anybody who's in a customer service industry, anybody who has to deal with clients, you need to be good at what you do, and
Right.
then you have to be realistic with what's out of your capability. If that first guy doesn't know how to do what you're asking for, then he's not the right guy for the job. But if the client wants something very specific, the
Yeah.
client deserves to have that very specific thing.
And I gotta say, almost 100% of the time, she's right.
Yes.
When she's
thank
kind of
you.
describing stuff, how something should go. Because even at first, when we would do renovation stuff together, even I would be like, well, I don't know. Are you sure about this? And then it would get done the way she wanted. I'd be like, oh fuck, you're right. I don't know what it is about the way her brain works, but she
just see it
does
differently.
But she does, even though she says well, I would love to offload the work, I know that when it came time to do the gardening stuff that she couldn't do, which was pull out the roots of these really big birds of paradise that were kind of junking up the yard. She
right,
was
I
bummed.
chopped down the birds of paradise, but I couldn't rip the roots
She was
out.
bummed, oh no, I guess I can't do this anymore. I was really having fun swinging the machete, and now this is the part
Introduce her
that we
to a bobcat.
can't. Well, yeah. We're gonna have to bring in a bobcat to break up some concrete. But what I've noticed is that with anyone who is going through a renovation, you really have to be comfortable with a higher than what you would expect percentage of things just going wrong. Or what we found when we were doing other renovations is that, because we don't want to sound like it's not that Lydia's a jerk to micromanage people, but a lot of times if you just our experience has been, this is just historical data, if you kind of leave crews to their own devices, they'll just do stuff, and you're like, why did you tile that? They just do
why
stuff.
is it upside down?
Yeah, so no one asked
yeah.
anything, and so you do have to and then you have to pay to rip it out and put
Yeah.
it back in, and there is a certain amount of micromanaging, and if you're a contractor, if you're a subcontractor, I'm not trying to come down you for this,
No.
but it is a thing that happens very consistent, or people just don't show up, and you're like, how do you run a business if you just don't show up?
Oh my God, it drives me. Well, you think about with our shows, what we do. So we had, for example, just before Christmas, we had 39 renovations on the go for the shows.
Yeah.
All at one time, 39 renovations.
so wild.
And with that many, we have different construction crews, we have different trades working with us. If one person doesn't do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it, it can throw off the whole chain.
Yes.
And so it really is a frustration that I know very, very well. It's very, very frustrating.
Because everything has sort of a fulcrum point where it's okay, so we can't redo the windows until we redo the walls, but we can't redo the walls until we do the floor tile. We can't do this. Yeah, we have to do this. And so if the tile guy doesn't show up and he's the first stage, then it's time and money, because it's that domino effect of just
Yeah.
now nothing can happen, and now if you're a week behind, then some other guy might be another week behind, and all of a sudden you've just tacked on an additional month, so.
And especially too on Property Brothers Forever Home, we can't. Our homeowners, they pay for the renovation. A lot of people think it's a free reno. It's not. We stretch a budget like no one can, but it's still their budget. So if we start, misaligning our schedule and missing certain permits, and then have to double up on costs, it all comes out of the homeowner's pocket, and we don't want that. So,
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's. But you find some good trades. Did my rug guy work out for you?
His schedule didn't work out, but I managed to find my mom's old family friend.
Good.
So
All right, so you got it done.
He's been doing the stuff, yes.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, we had to carpet because we have like wood stairs, and we had to put runners down the stairs.
They saw the video.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, but it's great. I'm a very detail-oriented person. Linda loves to see the detail as well, and so for me to see everything that was in your head with what you sent over is perfect.
Right.
I think some people might, if somebody just likes to kind of get in and do some quick job, it would overwhelm them, and they're not the right person for that kind of detail.
Well, so it'd be interesting to talk about couple dynamics in renovation too, because like we our relationship survived a major renovation in the months leading up to our wedding.
Yeah.
Same for us.
That we were living in the house.
Yeah, so we were moving room to room. We started in the basement.
Yeah.
And then
because that had the working bathroom.
Yeah.
And that was the part that they weren't, so we would just sort of move around while a wedding was being planned I have to say, I think we got through it pretty well, but I also
there were some tense moments, but we survived it.
So we just recently had a really stupid argument that was totally my fault, which was
I don't even remember what it was.
So it was this. It was that this house that we're redoing, Lydia started doing a bunch of stuff, and I was like, "You didn't shouldn't we?" Shouldn't we collaborate on this? Because when she gets an idea in her head, she just runs and just starts doing it because she just wants to get it done.
Yes, this is true, but I will. One conversation is enough for me.
Yeah,
and then it's like go time.
Yeah,
we did talk about it.
She just gets shit done because she wants to get it done.
But Chris does like to have multiple conversations about things.
This is true.
So we'll have a conversation about something. And I think it's done, but then 2 months later, he'll be like, "So wait, I just wanted to go over the paint color," and I'm like, "I don't. Yeah. What are you talking about? I thought that was done 2 months ago."
So what's And by the way, it was totally. I was just. I don't know. I was in a weird mood, and I think I was just being butthurt that day. I was like, "You're just doing these things, and you're not involving me. I want to be involved." And she was like, "I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for us to get this shit done." And I was like, "That's." God damn.
Yeah.
And so, what is your dynamic when you guys are getting things done, and how do you? Because this is just good advice for any couple going through renovation. Can be very stressful for people, especially if they're living through it. So, what is your do you have an agreement? Is it unspoken? Do you handle different things? How do you communicate during a reno when it's your own home?
Yeah, I think it's best to admit our own expertise and admit what you're good at and what I'm good at. I will never try to know about construction stuff. But when it comes to design, I think we're lucky in that we're almost on the same page, and I find that I sometimes push your boundaries a little.
Yeah,
which is fun.
With our house here in Hancock Park as well, it was the same thing. There were certain areas where Linda brought in some amazing ideas, and I was nervous because we had never designed together before. But the funny thing, Lydia is basically Linda and me combined. Because Linda is this creative genius. There's so many amazing ideas that she brings to the table, but she will then go on forever. Linda will continue to think about it, and it'll continue
That's where I'm more like Chris.
Yeah.
Linda.
And then I'll come in and I'll be like, all right, the conversation's been had. We'll get this thing done. Yeah. And so I really am the implementer, and she's the idea machine. But I find together, though, in this room, we're all creative people in different ways, but I think Linda and I balance each other out perfectly because I'm very analytical. I'm also very creative, but I like to come up with those ideas, work it through, and then I'll take the lead and get it done.
Yeah, I really like to percolate on things to make sure that I still feel that way, because I know, in a moment you might go, yeah, let's do this, and then you sit on it for a while and you go, oh, I've actually changed my mind.
Yep.
And so, but Lydia, and I think she's right, just once we kind of say something, she just gets it done, because then otherwise things just don't get done, That's how things just sit around, and then you end up with something that's unfinished in your house that you always have to justify to your friends. Well, we're working on this, whereas she just wants to get the shit done.
And I'm 100%. I can't stand an idea. There's so many great ideas that come your way, but you can't act on absolutely everything. But I hate having something that's part way done, or a physical renovation in the house. I cannot stand having trades coming into the house all the time, and Linda doesn't like that either. But if it started, we're getting it done right away so we can enjoy it. And the homeowners are the same. When we work with homeowners on the show, and they've waited a decade. They're like, we've always wanted to renovate our kitchen, but we thought we'd wait a while, and then just before we sell the house, maybe we'll do that. I'm like, Why?
But then you
Why
never
not
get
make
to
it?
enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get to
Yeah.
enjoy it at all. Get it done now. Customize it how you want. And who knows? In 10, 20 years, if you decide you want to renovate it a different way, well, then you'll enjoy it at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the same reason I can't ever get a tattoo. Like, I could not make up my mind. I would
Oh
not
my
be
God,
able
that's the
to.
same for me.
I don't know what I love enough other than the people in my lives, but I can't tattoo everyone's names on me.
And so like you have that fear of like, oh, you'd get the tattoo and afterwards you'd be like, fuck.
Yeah,
why this one?
Yeah, and then I'll look at ways to like, hey, can you change that shape into something else?
Well, what I do though, with the dolphin on my lower back, I tweak it a little bit. I'll add a little smile on it one here, and then another fin.
Yeah,
Unicorn.
that's really nice. I'm just picturing that now.
Yeah,
I think that's someone should. You should Photoshop that. We should Photoshop that and put it up for the podcast, like Drew's dolphin
You know what
stamp.
we did years ago? I cracked a joke. I think I actually said a dolphin tattoo on my lower back on Property Brothers, like, just in a scene, just as a haha moment. And the biggest thing we had on social media that fans were asking about was to see my tattoo. They all thought it was real. I'm like, I don't really have that.
Maybe it is.
It's
But the
time.
nipple ring, that's a whole other thing.
Maybe the dolphin's jumping through the nipple
The
ring.
hoop, yes.
Yeah, mini
This is a
dolphins.
great idea. This is a great idea. But as I said, I always defer to Lydia, and not because she's ever said like, you know, ask my permission before you do stuff, but I just trust her, and I feel better because again, I feel like she's usually right with stuff,
Yeah.
and so if I say like, well, I'm thinking about doing this at this one place. She's really good at going, no, that would be weird because it's not this or this. And like I told you on your podcast, she was also the person that taught me when you're doing the interior on your house, I would say like, well, this house is Spanish, so we should only have this type of furniture. She said, no, you need to find what speaks to you, and then it'll all speak to each other because you're the connection point. Don't try to fit it to the, you know, like obviously we're not going to put in a super modern thing in an old Spanish house, but with furniture, it's like, you know, we have some, you know, Georgian type furniture, we have some Victorian type furniture, we have some Spanish colonial
It
type.
can be eclectic. Yeah.
Well, and like
but the
art
pieces
too,
all-
though, because I know, like, you were like, oh, we should get these antique paintings. I'm like, well, I have some like sweet tooth and like also like deface and like really funky modern like street art, and he's like, but it doesn't go with the house. I'm like, but it's art. Like
it goes
doesn't-
with you.
It's not supposed to
Yeah.
go with the house. Art is just an expression, and like, I feel bad because I know there's a lot of amazing like modern houses out there by famous architects, but like it always kind of hurts my soul a little bit when like the house itself is just the piece of art and there's nowhere to put a
live.
frame on the
Yourself.
wall or
Yeah.
anything, and like you don't exist. You're just in the house, but the house
Yeah.
like consumes you.
Yeah.
I do find there's so many designers out there that when they're designing with a client, they're always pushing their agenda, what their design aesthetic is on the client. And I didn't go to school for design. I learned design through what we do, flipping houses, understanding what people are looking for. Jonathan went to school for construction design. But we have always had that feeling of we're never going to force something on people. I'm here to, we'll open up your eyes to new types of design or architecture that you've never seen. But at the end of the day, you're the one who lives in the house. We want to make sure this is the perfect house for you. And that's why, you know, we're at 400 episodes now. We've done 400 families we've renovated for the shows. And not a single one of those houses is the same because every homeowner is different.
And some people do want someone to come in and just totally like,
Yeah.
you know, make it like a hotel. I can just move in or whatever. But it's also like finding the right balance with stuff. And Lydia, also, like, I remember having conversations because we have a lot of vintage taxidermy, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't put this one in the entryway because maybe it'll put people off. And she's like, it's our house. Like, it doesn't, like, they don't have, no one else has to like it.
Also,
Yeah.
not a conversation anyone else ever has. My taxidermy I want to put here. Or
But
maybe we should
also,
put
if
it upstairs.
someone's gonna come over to our house and judge us or not like us based on like random shit we have everywhere, like I don't want to have them
Exactly.
over.
It is
like I
kind
just
of
I
like
wouldn't
it
go
is
to
an
someone's house
expression.
and be like, how dare you put that throw pillow there?
That's
like
so
I would
offensive.
never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to point out we are looking at a Teddy Ruxpin with a blown out face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so this is an example of the little creatures and things that you have everyone that. But what we love is that it's so you guys. It's so unique. No, it really is. Like it's everything in your house is so unique. Every room and area that you go is so unique. Very thoughtfully put together. Even your wallpaper choices in each space speak to you,
It's
speak
like
to the space.
a museum of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it
that-
feels like.
Well, like I said on your podcast, I think we're very lucky that we have almost the exact same like it's our Venn diagrams are right on top of each other.
Yeah, it's
so we
extremely
like
similar.
the exact same stuff, so we kind of know. So this like exploded, melted Teddy Ruxpin is great, and it's something that, you know, like Lydia might have in her workspace, but I would have it in mine, and right now it's in mine. But we share a lot of the stuff too, because it's, if I like something or she likes something, there's a better than average chance the other person is really going to like it too. So that has been very helpful. But what advice do you give to people whose sensibilities are totally different?
Which is a lot of couples.
Most couples,
they really are.
It's really
And
surprising.
when you have that, a differentiation on what you want in your home, on top of having it all dirty and dusty and being worked on like during a renovation, that is the recipe for disaster with relationships. And so it is really tough for a lot of people to get on the same page. Jonathan and myself, we really are almost therapists of the home space. We're trying to help people through the process, take the burden off their shoulders, and we'll deal with a lot of the hassles. But the main thing is just trying to showcase, like I'll take people to an inspiration home and trying to show them different aspects of homes that have blended styles. If it's a transitional look they're going for, or if sometimes somebody loves something very vintage, very traditional, and then somebody else is extremely modern. Okay, well, let's look at spaces within the house where we can maybe go a little more one way than the other. It's tough. Like at the end of the day, we usually end up getting people to agree on the husband will lead the kitchen space, the wife will leave the master suite space. So people divide and conquer within. And at the end of the day, we also can use decor pieces and furniture pieces to blend that style too, and it makes people happy. So not everyone's to the extreme. Like you guys are to the extreme with your style is so unique. And I honestly, we love it. Everyone we know who's ever been to your house absolutely loves it. Most couples aren't that specific with a kind of a look that they want. Most people are just like, like in a magazine when you see, what do you call it, modern? That's what most people are like.
Well, she also knows how to find, like, there's a very specific wallpaper that is in the, it's in the first room of the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. And
the lilies.
Yeah, and so we have this, like, secret bookcase stairway, and Lydia found, and that paper is really hard to find, and she was like, oh, I found it at, Bradbury and Bradbury, which is one of the oldest wallpaper. Like, she fucking found the paper!
In the United States, it's the oldest wallpaper manufacturing company. But, like, it's not even really listed on their site. You kind of have to deep dive, and then you can't even order off the site. You have to call them, and it's very old-fashioned, but I love it. And they make so many incredible papers. Yeah, that, and I think, what are Scalamandre you like, too? I like Scalamandre, yeah. I like their fabrics a little bit more. And Lincrusta? Or Lincrusta. Lincrusta, which is that paintable wallpaper. That's like, it's like
the texture
thick and textured.
Yeah, you did that on the room upstairs.
I did. Yeah, there was molding, and there was a space which I think it might have been originally, but in the in the early part of the 20th century, in houses that couldn't afford they didn't want to spend the wood carving. They would have this like firm kind of paintable wallpaper that looked like molded carved wood, and so. That's what we put in there, and I think it looks pretty neato. But she found that shit, and she just knows how to find this amazing stuff. And so I have found that it's been such a great thing for our relationship to be able to do these projects together, because I genuinely get so excited about what thing are we going to create together, and at the end of it, it's like a pure expression of our relationship and our love for each other and our excitement about working together on something and manifesting a physical representation of, that period in our lives. You know what I love? You guys having something like this, like how you click so well in your home. It's such a big part of everyone's life, but most couples don't have that same connection with their design aesthetics. Lynn and I are very much the same. Overall, we have that same feel and look that we wanted to have in our home, and we love a lot of vintage pieces as well, which we like to blend in, but we like modern functionality. And I find one of the things that we always talk about, though, is in a relationship, I think it's very important to find something that you guys can learn to love together. So if it's similar interests, whatever it is, but your home is where you spend the majority of your life, and the fact that that is your shared interest is pretty cool. Literally, most people don't have that. Well, I think
the only area that we differentiate, not drastically, is if if I could, I would probably have an even crazier collection than Guillermo del Toro, and the whole house would be covered with props and craziness.
Old movie
And Chris
props.
sort of gets me to dial it back a little bit. And
I never thought I would be that person. I never thought I would be the damper switch.
But Chris also alternatively really likes antiques, which is amazing because I love them too, but I only like them if they're functional.
Yeah.
So if they don't serve a purpose and you can't use it, like if it's just going to be something that if you touch it, if it gets a scratch, or like if you have to use it for something, and like if it's too precious, I don't want it because then it serves no purpose.
But what if the purpose is his visual enjoyment?
Ooh.
Aha! Yes!
This is therapy.
Well, so because there is a really interesting dividing line, and this might sound minor, but I wonder which side of the fence people fall on this. But I will buy like a lot of antique books and put them up for the aesthetic quality, and Lydia's like,
I'm not going to read it. I
Yeah,
don't
she's
want
like,
it.
because
I like
she has a
to
lot
read.
of really amazing first edition copies of things, and she's like, I don't love the idea of putting up books purely for aesthetic reasons only. Like, if you're going to put them up, you should experience them, and they should be read. And so, where do you guys fall?
I'm
We're
with
so the
Lydia.
same. Yeah, and I'm with you. I just love a pretty looking old book.
I'm with Lydia. I don't like things that are too precious.
Yeah.
Like if kids don't feel comfortable running around in here and having fun in here, then there's something wrong. Like I don't want people to feel like, I can't breathe on it.
But with the kids, for example, like we have our nieces and nephews over, and this past holiday we had 18 family members staying with us, and it was a busy house. But the kids all run around; they're just being kids. But I look at one of our dining chairs, and they're all fabric chairs, and there's a pen mark across it. And I'm like, oh. And then I kind of vented to Linda, and I'm like, and she laughs. She's like, they're kids. And then I go to the living room, and one of our green, those green suede chairs has a big blue pen mark across it. And I'm like, oh my god! And then I have this panic moment because right now, when the kids are there, I put most of our antiques and our collectibles into my office. And I'm like, I saw them in my office the other day. I was like, and I have that old guitar, the 1890 Martin guitar that I got. And I'm like, I go racing in there. Luckily, they didn't touch anything in there. But I do. There's a balance for me. Like, for example, that old guitar, I had it restrung, and it was actually almost in perfect condition. But I put nylon strings on it, so it was less stress on the guitar on the bridge. And so you could play it, but I don't want anybody playing it. I want that just to be shown on the shelf.
That's so funny.
I'm not like that.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
like,
not like that at all.
If you're not going to play that damn thing,
Then what's the point?
Because we're getting a dog in about 3 weeks or something.
I was going to ask you.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
so we're getting a dog because we lost our kitty over the holidays, and Lydia was like, I don't. She and the cat were so connected. She was like, I don't think I can have another cat, but I don't like that there's no loving pet energy in the house.
Yeah.
And so we're going dog. And she's like, it'll be a good practice with kids because I'm very tense about like, because if a chair is like 200 years old, it has survived for 2 centuries.
Which
and
means it can handle shit.
Which
little
means
bit of
it
love.
didn't have that little brat jumping up and down the back of it.
If it survived that long,
So-
it means it can take it.
This is where I feel like this is the
But like,
healthy
he
part
gets
of the
upset
compromise
if
of
the
the
floor
relationship.
gets scuffed, and I'm like the asshole like scraping the furniture all along it. I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. And
I
he's like,
wouldn't have seen that in you.
the
I
floor,
would've thought
and I'm
you'd
like,
be
yeah, it's a
No,
floor.
it's me. I'm like everything's like you can't like if I would probably literally like have 2 days worth of diarrhea if I came into our house and I saw a bunch of kids like jumping up on stuff and like riding us. I'm like, no, those chairs, no.
And actually, your house is even more in danger because you have so many of your pieces that look like toys.
Oh, yeah. There's
They
fucking
are
Disney
toys.
shit and Gremlins, and they totally look...
Yeah, but I play with them. I drag him around the house and stuff.
he's
So
not
he's
here.
not there, and
I don't
I'm
wanna
just
know
like
that.
walking around the house
Don't
with a
tell me that.
gremlin, and he's.
I know. I mean, I have a joke in my act about it, how, like, mint condition is one sticky finger away from becoming garbage, where it's just like...
But this is funny because I bought Chris, like, unopened new Ren and Stimpy comics. But, like, this is really funny, and I'm sure everyone in the nerd world is gonna hate me for this. But, like, I wanted new comics because I wanted to open and read the new comics just for myself.
Yeah.
But Chris has taken them away and hidden them from me, so I can't open
But what
them
he
and read
doesn't
them.
know is
They're not
before you
hidden, they're
gave
just
them
not
to
out
him,
in the
you
open.
opened it.
I didn't
and you
open
read
them,
it.
but I
Yeah.
wanted to because I was like, "Isn't this exciting? Now we can read." And he's like,
You're the first one.
No.
Well, as soon as
and
she
I was like, "What? I just wanted to read them."
as soon as she
twice,
said
too.
like, "Oh, we should open these and read these," I was like, "I'll be right back." And then I didn't hide them per se, but they're just not out in the open.
But like all my
tall
collectible toys too, the first thing, like I found this amazing spider gremlin. And, you know, the seller had this whole thing about like, oh, it's been in the box. It's never been
It's not
opened.
original. It wasn't in the movie. It was just. It was a
It's-
limited edition.
But it's like one of like 20 spider gremlin NECA props that's like, it's a smaller scale, but it's still pretty large. But it was in a brown cardboard box. So the first thing I did as soon as it came home, I was like, whipped out the knife, pulled open that box, and I was like, yes, I have my gremlin. Like, I
think
want
every
to.
nerd that's listening right now just cried a
Yeah,
little.
but it's not theirs.
but
It's
that's the thing.
mine,
You want
and
to
I
enjoy
want to
it.
enjoy it, and I want to play with it, and I want to be able to appreciate it.
Yeah, that is the definitely like a good dividing line and a good area of compromise is sort of like when are you overprotecting something and when are you living and when are you
Yeah.
experiencing it and how can you I mean obviously if there's a Superman comic Superman #1 you wouldn't want to take that out and read it. I know
Yeah.
she probably would, but you wouldn't want to read it. But for most things, like, yeah, I am starting to come around and be like, yeah, you know what, they should be enjoyed and they
Yeah.
should be appreciated because they're not doing, unless it's purely an investment and not like,
Right.
not like a life
Most
thing.
of the time, I find collecting of any kind is not an investment. I find most people try to say it's an investment. For example, I collect coins. And I totally admit I'm a total nerd for it, but I love old vintage coins. I have coins from 2,000 years ago. And it's awesome.
amazing.
It's not an investment. I'm paying like $30 or $50 for a quarter. Right. It's not an investment. I'm an idiot if it's an investment, but it's something cool to hand down to my grandkids. But what Linda and I feel is with anything we collect, whether it's these old typewriters we have, or I have an old school bell from the 1700s, and those things, it's a story. There's a story behind it. There's a reason we have it, somewhere we got it, some cool story. And if we can't showcase these pieces to be able to talk about the stories, I don't want it.
Right.
Well, yeah, and you don't want the story to end with you. Like, I always think of the objects having a story itself. Like, what did they go through with this family, with the past family? And then I think of, like, Toy Story, the movie. Like, if your toy was just sitting on the shelf the whole time, like, that would be so boring for that toy.
Right, because I
would
think
get sad.
I think there's sort of like a fundamental outlook that I have about, so like I have that prehistoric cave bear skeleton in the living room, and the way that I see it is that we collect these things that we love, but it's also admitting that our ownership of them is temporary, and because obviously we don't know, no one lives forever, and so what I see is that we are merely curating these things for a time, caring for them so that they like survive the time stream throughout they survive the future, and that we are caring for them this time, and then they will be hopefully passed on to people who will because they've survived for a long period of time.
But what I don't like, nowadays to find some of these items, it's a lot harder because it's so commercialized now and so easy for people to reach, collectors or people looking to buy different things. And it's frustrating to me though when there's so many people that get taken advantage of. Like, for example, the house next door, the estate sale, they had a stamp collection, and some of these stamps were back from like the 1700s. This collection was definitely worth a lot of money, and this guy made the beneficiary sign, this stamp collector guy, he made them sign before he quoted what it would be worth, the whole collection. She had to sign something saying that he's allowed to buy it for what he appraises it at,
which is such a conflict of
it's
interest.
such a conflict of
That's
interest, and so he
insane.
bought it for $1,800, and that's criminal. And so when I think of stuff moves around, it has different people, and we're just curating it. That just annoys me when it goes somewhere that it's just purely for the money or the greed,
Right.
and it's not actually to be enjoying. I want items, no matter what it is, to be somewhere that it's going to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Well, and also
Appreciate it.
Also,
yeah.
like, I mean, your house could burn down and then you lose everything. Like, it's just, if you're not appreciating it, like, it could all be gone. It's
Yeah.
still just
it is stuff. It still is stuff. You're absolutely right, and I've gotten better about that. But I also, because there's almost nothing in our house that was manufactured in a modern factory. for me, it's also the story and the experience. Like, she and I could tell you pretty much where every piece of everything came from. And it's like, oh, we brought, like we had this shipped back from Austria because, like our first big trip was to Austria in 2015. And we had this really cool, 1700s painted armoire that we had sent back. And so
very fancy.
Everything is, everything is like, everything is a story, and everything was part of us, like, experiencing it together. Even if it was just, we were lying in bed one night, we were both surfing around, looking at different, either First Dibs or All Good Things or whatever, and look at this really cool. Oh, that's really cool. And then we got it. We know where everything was, and so it's all been a part of our relationship story.
So with that in mind, because you guys have collected a lot, and I mean, literally every time we come over, you've collected a bit more. Like we did a show a year or two ago with William Shatner where we actually went and renovated two of his fans, like his diehard Star Trek fans. We went and renovated their fan caves. And so what I thought was very sad, though, is a lot of them, their entire garages are stuffed full of old paraphernalia and cool things, but you can't get in to see any of it. And so what we were doing is we came in and we gave it, we made things more visible so they had more of a curated look and then you could showcase it. So when you get things, do you find that sometimes you've collected so many things? Like when you showed me that one time your guest house, and it was full of all these cool pieces, but it was just sort of all piled in there.
Yeah.
Does that really bother you when you can't showcase what you have?
Oh, well, right now, that house, we haven't started work on that one yet. So a lot of what's in there is...
For that house?
I think a lot of it
probably
is
likely for that house, but it's also like, when we could open a fucking antique store, with the stuff that we have.
I don't think I would want to.
No, I know, but the way that I think of it is that they're just pieces that haven't found their place yet. But they will. But I don't think. I'm, and maybe I'm wrong about this. I still don't think we're hoarders per se, because we don't just I just bought 5 chairs. I mean, there are times where things will just show up because, one of us will get excited about it. But I do believe that eventually everything, almost everything will have a place.
I wouldn't say you're hoarders in any way, because in your house, you have a lot of stuff, but it all has purpose and all has place. So that's not hoarding at all. Hoarding is when you get 300 rolls of toilet paper and put it in your bathtub because there's nowhere else to put it, but it's because there was a sale at Walmart.
Yeah.
That's hoarding.
But one of my...
piles of papers just for no reason.
But one of the things that I'm really proud of, and I don't think I've even told you this, and this is an honest to God truth, is that, I respect Lydia's opinion so much that when I redid this podcast cabin, and, the first time it was done and she came in, she was like, "You've done a really amazing job here." I was like, I almost wanted to cry because I just felt like it was such a... Well, yeah, because it's like her opinion matters to me more than anyone else's. And so for her to say, you did a really amazing job and you did this pretty much on your own. And the truth is, I still was saying, oh, what do you think about that? I was still tapping her opinions.
Secretly tapping her
here and there. But I was really proud of that because she genuinely said, this is really cool what you did to this room. And that meant a lot to me.
Oh, I think
it's amazing in here.
It is.
And it's so true to who you are and what you love and just everything.
Yeah, and you can see that too. Everything I do too, even whether it's on the shows or whether we're doing an appearance on something else or a fan engagement, like a home show or something. Everything I do, I always kind of lean over to Linda and I get that last little bit of approval because she is, like you said with Lydia, she's almost always right about whatever it is that she says or whatever the opinion is, and it's always coming from a place of love. I know she has my best interests in mind as well, and I just like having that extra little bit of either you're going to confirm what I was already thinking or you're going to take it to an even better level. So the thing you just said, I think, is one of the most important relationship things that people can understand, and hopefully they do, because I think it could avoid a lot of, because every couple has, there are points where you're just tired and you have stupid arguments over nothing and stuff. But it's sort of the understanding that, no matter what, I am always going to come from a place of love, and, Lydia's always going to come from a place of love. It's never to try to, if you understand that as a couple, I feel like you could avoid a lot of stuff, because even if there's something you don't understand, you still know, well, they're not trying to fuck me over. It's, obviously the intent. So even if you don't agree, understanding that the intention is altruistic is healthy.
Well, I would think that the end result would also showcase that, because it'd be very transparent if somebody did something based off of I just wanted this thing, so I did this thing and live with it. Where with everything that I do, yes, I do things quickly and I can make really rash decisions and like jump into it really fast. But with every single choice and every step along the way, it's like I'm doing it for Chris in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's all coming from a place of love, so that it's almost like a physical manifestation of the love to make it better and for him.
And I think having different, because everybody's different. Every single person. I'm even a twin, but Jonathan and I are very different. And people don't know this. But it comes from a place of love. But I do find like a lot of times when we have an argument, it does come from our perspective. And we always, and Linda and I remind ourselves of this all the time, because I communicate one way. I'm sort of loud and I'm to the point. And like Jonathan and me, when we communicate with each other, we just get to the point. It's like a short form conversation. We've had this our whole lives, and it's very efficient, and I love it. But if I turn and talk that way to Lydia, or if I turn and talk that way to Linda, or if I talk that way to you, I find sometimes people forget that what I'm intending to come across is not how it's received.
Because they don't have that years of that shorthand and the understanding.
Exactly. And so that a lot of our arguments is that I come talking to Linda very sort of that short to the point, and then she needs more time to kind of like think things through and communicate, and then it just comes across aggressive. And then sometimes there's where she's really working some thought. Yeah, and then I'm just like, we need to get to the point here. Let's just get to the point here.
Again, I'm still just like two of you combined.
Yeah, she is.
I subtlety is not my forte. So like I'm always very blunt, good or bad. And I also have like a resting bitch voice. So I'll say things, and especially if I'm a little tired or I'm just like being blunt, I just sound like an asshole. Even if I'm saying something nice, it'll just sound like, wait, is that like...
I really love you tonight.
I was like, yes.
Whoa, wait, what? Is that sarcastic? What are you saying?
When we first started dating, when we were going to get married, she was like, listen, like I'm kind of honest to a fault maybe, but she said, I will always be straight with you, and I will always tell you what I feel, no matter like what the consequences of that are, because I don't know how else to be.
But then I am overly communicative about that, because if I have an opinion or if I don't understand something, it's like, I'll keep sort of rerunning it, and it's almost like, it's almost like a math equation, how there can be multiple ways to solve one equation, where I might have a very vastly different way of getting to the end that you do. Mm-hmm. So if I have a conclusion and I get there, well, it's like, okay, well, now we have to go backtrack and go through whatever this is to get there. So I'm very blunt and very to the point, but now we have to overly communicate this thing because now I'm just confused.
But also the other side of that is that, she's like, but if I tell you something, you can believe it. So if I say like, hey, I really love this room that you did, I know she means I really love this room. If she didn't like it, she'd be like, oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe
that I love. Direct communication, whether you want to hear it or not, is the basis of everything I believe in a relationship. And I think that's one thing that does help Linda and me, is because I've never understood when people communicate, whether it's in a relationship or just with friends or coworkers, when you say what you don't mean. Mm-hmm. But if you actually think about it in society, everyone does that. And I'm like, all you're doing is creating confusion and bad communication.
Because no one wants to hurt anyone's feelings, and no one wants the consequences, and no one wants to be the bearer of negative news, because it can a lot of times totally backfire and create a situation. You're like, I fucking shouldn't have said anything.
But see, I've always, like, for better or worse, with all of my friendships and everybody in my life, I've always been that person where I'll be like, you know what, I would rather you hate me for being honest with you than my having to stand here to save this friendship that's now built on a lie because I didn't tell you whatever this thing was.
Do you find now, with how direct I am compared to how sort of, and Linda's the most heartfelt person you'll ever meet, like she really puts everyone else's emotions first. Have I sort of corrupted you to the dark side of my ways? Or because I feel you pulled me a little in your direction.
Blunt? You have influenced me in a positive way that, encourages me to speak up whenever I, feel like it. But what I find that people don't expect from me is when I am upset, or not even upset, but just not like super bubbly, they think I'm mad. And I'm like, I don't have to be like, bouncing off the walls to be happy. Like, just because I'm not smiling at you doesn't mean I'm unhappy or like I'm mad at you. So what annoys me if I speak up, I'm taken as like being upset or like being bitchy. Not like to you, but like just in general. And I
Right.
don't think that's fair.
No, that's
Right.
Yeah,
Just
no.
because I'm typically not loud.
Well, I think, like you had said earlier, like knowing that it always comes from a place of love.
Exactly.
When we
Yeah.
communicate, whether she speaks up or whether I'm the one that's like babble talking, because I always do, we always end up knowing there are multiple ways to come to a solution. There are multiple ways to solve whatever the issue is. At the end of the day, this is even the same in design. There's more than one way to design a room.
in the end, we realize like, what are we fighting about? Like, we're
Right.
just talking about the same thing, and it's just semantics.
Well, I also think they're sort of unfair gender dynamics.
Totally.
Like when a guy kind of says what he wants, people are like, that dude's assertive, and when a woman asserts herself, and people are like,
bitchy.
yeah, and so it's a completely imbalance. So like what she was saying in the beginning, like working with contractors and subcontractors, not taking her seriously. It's like, what the fuck is she supposed to do? If like you're not like what.
Well, and like there's a lot of times like where even not that long ago where it's like things are getting done and we're doing all this work and like if I'm trying to get something done quickly but I have to check in with Chris and someone's coming back to me and I was like why are you asking me? I told you need to call Chris. And it wasn't that long ago where someone was like hesitant and kind of having this panic attack to call Chris and I was like, are you afraid of him? He's not the one you should be afraid of. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah.
They just hear this.
He's not the one that you should be afraid
Yeah.
of. Like, just call him right now.
Yeah.
And it is, actually, we find the same thing though. Like people will be afraid to talk to me.
That's so weird.
And then they'll talk to Linda. I mean, I think the way we communicate too, again, with me being very to the point, I think sometimes that is a little bit more fearful. People don't want to kind of be like, they think they're going to be in trouble with me, which is not the case. But
Right.
they find it, Linda's so easy to talk to. And she really, not that I don't listen to people when I talk to them, but Linda really listens and takes in what you're saying, and I just kind of get to the point more. And I think it does scare people.
Yeah, which is funny because I don't think in general, I don't think I've given anyone a
Well,
reason.
you usually then tell them to talk to me.
Yeah, I
about
do.
the thing.
I'm like, you're gonna have to talk to Lydia about that. I don't know.
have to come
I
back
don't
to me
know.
anyway.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's another sort of like a weird fucked up gender dynamic of like, if you talk to the guy, he's gonna like. I honestly don't know. But I would love to find out how many episodes of your podcast are you into now?
So
Today was the 6th.
Yeah, today we
that's
posted the
awesome.
6th.
Yeah.
How many have you recorded?
We've recorded 25.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
nice.
Yeah.
Dang.
So
See, that's
you guys
his.
are not messing around.
So this is the funny thing. So our podcast originally at home with Linda and Drew Scott, the whole purpose here was Linda and me, we wanted to do this for years. And we wanted to, my schedule's so busy with filming and we keep very busy schedules. So this was our chance to kind of slow down a little bit, relax, enjoy some time together with people that are amazing, inspiring people, share stories. And so my way of interpreting that first conversation with Linda to spend more time together, relax, and do a podcast was to block shoot 22. Yeah. And so we recorded a bunch in a row there, and it started to stress Linda out a little bit.
No, but I was exactly like you in the design situation. I was like, are we not going to talk about it some more? Because like he went and booked all these things,
Right.
and I thought,
I was like, all right, Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Whoa, what?
Like, whoa.
I hired on our podcast producer. I got everything going. I set up all the editing and everything that had to be done, and we just got right into it. And after we finished, like Linda said, "Holy shit! Like that was stressful," but it was actually kind of it was invigorating. Invigorating. Yes, thank you. Me good with words, but it was invigorating because we got this thing we want to do for so many years.
Yeah.
Out the gate. And you know how we actually did with our magazine Reveal. So we just launched Reveal as well. And so I said in one of our big meetings, and this is a massive meeting with 20 to 30 of our people on our editorial team and everybody at Meredith and our team. And I just said in the meeting, like, oh, yes, and in Reveal, I want to make sure one of our mentions in every magazine is our podcast, At Home with Linda and Drew Scott. There will be a nice big lower third, and we're going to have that mention in the magazine. And everybody looked at each other because nobody had been told this before. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll definitely do this.
And we're like a month away from publishing.
Yeah, we were publishing in a month.
God.
And so I look over at Linda, and then after the meeting, she's like, what was that? And I'm like, that's my way of making sure that we do this because I don't want to keep talking about it. And so then we did. And here we go. And we've had amazing time so far, and the fans seem to love it. But it's a deeper dive into our lives that people aren't used to seeing.
Well, also, it's like, people get a sense of you from the show, but in a way, you and Jonathan are like, I don't know, like tour guides in a way. You're sort of tour guide through this process. And so it's not like, I mean, I think people definitely get a sense of you from watching the show, but it can be difficult to really get to know you on a deeper level because there's just no time for that on the show.
No, and 100%, you're exactly right. The show is not the Drew and Jonathan show. The show is us trying to help families, and so these families are really the show, and you get to see some of our personalities throughout, but that's why for us to be able to dig deeper, pull back the curtains and see our lives more, but also to have guests like yourself. And we had Howie Mandel. We just posted Carter Oosterhouse and Amy Smart and all these amazing people that are really great storytellers. They have fascinating lives, but a lot of their fans and people out there haven't seen that deeper dive. That's just fun for us. We just feel, which I'm sure is the same for you, if we sit down and chat with people that we really love and admire, that will come through and the fans will enjoy it.
Well, and and I think everyone sort of takes their home for granted. They take their home space for granted in the sense of like, oh, it's just a place it's just a place you go every night, rather than like this place is the foundation of, you spend a considerable percentage of your life there. It's an expression of who you are and how you live and your consumerism and your, you get good news in your home, you get bad news in your home,
bad memories,
you good memories, bad memories. Like it sort of builds the story of you, and yet people, I think, just go, whatever. And so it is a very shared human experience that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think of a lot. And I think it's good that people just get more of a sense of who you and Linda are as humans, because everything you collaborate with someone else on has a different chemistry and a different flavor. Yeah. And so that's what's fun, is getting to play with that and see, like, what is a thing that we make together? What does that look like?
Yeah, and the more everyone gets to see more of Linda, which they really, really love. Like, that's the one note we hear all the time. If Linda appears on one of our shows, they're like, can we have more Linda? Can we have more? And so it's really been a fun... at least for me, I mean, obviously, you speak for yourself.
It has been really fun.
It's been fun to pull her to the foreground a little bit more, because she's been a big part of our team ever since we met 10 years ago.
And how do you, because, like, people would say to me, oh my God, you have like a million jobs and you're so busy and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not the Scott brothers. Like, you guys, you legitimately in the middle of... you have multiple shows on HGTV, you have a furniture line, you have this website, you have the magazine now, you have the podcast now. So how are you, and I feel like we've sort of talked about this before, like, how are you managing balance in your life for the personal stuff? Because when we're young, our careers can be the thing that's in the forefront. Oh, we got to build this career because we got to do it. It's, it's important. I mean, and then I feel like as we start to get older, we're like, well, it is nice, but
it doesn't define
it doesn't define, like, the life stuff is really important. The people that we spend time with, contributing to those relationships, having human experiences, jobs may come and go, but the people in your life are the real meaning.
And I think it does just take age to really start to realize that. I know when I was younger, before Linda, I dated a little bit here and there, but I was never in a serious relationship. I always took my work seriously, and it was always the number one thing. Build a career. I know I can do something big, whatever it is, and go. And Linda being in my life, we've been together almost 10 years now, that's changed, because then you realize your priorities. I mean, Property Brothers, we love what we do. We love helping families with our magazine, our marketplace, Casaza, everything we do. I love the business. But what I've started to realize is that is amazing, and that is also a way that we can grow our voice to do really good things in this world. But family is everything. Mm-hmm. The time with Linda is everything for me, and so we've brought in an amazing team. Between our offices in Nashville and Vegas and Toronto, we have hundreds of staff. And they are the best best of the best in those different areas that they work. So our production entity, it can run itself. We'll come in and we work on overseeing certain things, but then they'll run with it. And then that gives Linda and me more time that we can actually focus on us, because we want to have kids too.
Linda, how are you forcing some balance into this man's life?
I think it's being intentional about it, because I know that when he says all these things, I know that he means it. But when you're in the thick of the crazy schedule, it is hard to come up for air and think like, oh shit, I'm doing the thing that I said I wasn't going to do, which is working from the minute you wake up to the minute you pass out. So for us, we've been trying to be more intentional about it and scheduling in like blocked off times. Like whether we have plans or not, it's just like scheduling evening time.
It sounds so unromantic to schedule your date nights, but honestly, when you have a schedule like what we do, we have to do it because if it's not there, something will take the place.
It is really important because especially if you don't, if you fail to plan, you'll just sit around or you'll get distracted or you'll do something else and then you're not spending time together. Like we make a point, like, we have at least one date night every week, even if it's just going out to dinner where we just, like focus on each other, like we go to this place that's way across town from where we live. So we're in the car together the whole time and we're not, and then we sort of talk about, when we get home, like what, do you want to watch a horror movie? Do you want to start a new series or stuff? And so like we really try to, and even though like the scheduling of the time, like you said, people are like, oh, but that's not spur of the moment. It's like, yeah, but if you once you're in the moment, it feels great that you're doing it. It doesn't matter that you schedule it. If you schedule it, it means that you value the relationship.
Don't schedule it, it might not happen.
Exactly, and that's why I love that outlook on the situation, because I think a lot of people that maybe don't have the crazy busy schedule that we have might not appreciate the same need to schedule, because they'll just, if it's a 9 to 5 that somebody works and they know every evening's off, then they have the ability to be a little bit more ebb and flow.
Right.
We are not 9 to 5. We're on a plane every 2 days. It has to be scheduled in, and then, as you said, in the moment, then that's where the spontaneity comes.
Well, I think that goes for parents as well, 9 to 5 or not. I think everyone struggles with not having enough time, when really it's just not making the time for something.
Or not managing your time in a way that can give you that time together. But especially knowing we want to have kids soon as well, we needed to focus. Hey, all the same time.
Yeah.
Call you.
Shall we schedule that in as well?
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're taking a swing at it tonight. Hey, Ma.
We'll be in the guest suite.
My mom just showed up.
And go.
Is it interesting how your mom shows
Oh
up
my
right
God!
when you
Is that when you walked in?
Yeah.
Is that when you walked in?
She felt that we were all talking
Did you
about
feel
baby.
that you were?
I heard the whole
Do you understand that? Like when you talk about it in front of your mom, that's a fucking legally binding contract now.
For me and for you.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah, you can't say that in front of an Italian mother and not have it be legally binding.
All right. I'll send you the date when I know.
Oh my gosh.
But I think this has been good for us because scheduling those days together is starting to give ourselves more of that habit. And once you've built the habit of that time off where it's just the two of you and then moving into having kids, you need all that spare time you can get because you're going to fill it with the kids.
Yeah.
But here's a question for you guys. How do you deal with, I'm the worst when it comes to always, I like to respond to emails the moment they come in. The moment they come in.
Honestly, if I could like break his phone at night, I would.
I'll also text you before I break Drew's.
Like
I have another joke in my act about how so I can't stand the red dot on a phone, like in a text or emails, and Lydia's number of unanswered things is so high.
Give me your phone.
And I'm like, I get vertigo looking at it. I'm like, how can you have 1,000 She goes, because it's not a priority. I don't know.
Okay, well, this is low right now, but Linda has... Oh, because you probably just went through or deleted old stuff. She has 10
Okay, that's not bad.
205 unread emails.
Where's your phone?
Oh, it's in my purse.
Usually her emails are like at 1,000.
If I had to guess, I probably have about 100 unlistened to voicemails. Like,
but I don't understand.
over 50... I'm probably never going to respond to you text messages. And I would wager to say over 5,000 emails.
See, that's what Linda's email actually usually says something like 17,000, and she'll make an excuse.
Okay,
so
it didn't back up properly.
I have 103 unheard voicemails. I have 8,294 unanswered emails.
Oh my God.
And 78 text messages that I may or may not ever respond
I appreciate you responding to our text messages.
Oh my God, that number is so... Look at that. That's not even a dot. That's a line.
It has a comma in there.
Yeah, there should never be a comma.
I was going to say 205. That's
Linda says 17,000.
I don't know how I have... Who has called me? Why do I have...
3,811.
Oh my gosh, that just hurts my...
I have 103 voicemails.
I don't get
That's crazy.
Those are 103 people who have taken you off their Christmas card list.
Yeah, that is.
How do you? Linda and I try to implement once we're done, when we're in the evening, no more texting. I have to certain things you have to get back to, but in the evening,
I've tried that
know, she
one.
has.
I think that after 9 p.m. there should be no more cell phones.
yeah.
I put mine in do not disturb and sleep, but this one over here.
But okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah, like
So
who,
the one-
who are you texting?
I have no idea.
This is one other thing, though. So I'll try and blame it on this. It's my mom's fault. So Jonathan and I got my mom addicted to an app. It's a Scrabble app, playing Scrabble. My mom loves Scrabble, but she's always only ever played the board game. So now, literally, our mom doesn't message us to say, hi, I love you, thinking of you. She just messages to say, before you go to bed, can you play your move? Come on, play your move.
It's your turn.
And so in the evening,
Oh
I'm
my
trying
God,
to be a
that's
polite
amazing.
son, bonding with my mom, playing this game, but all Linda sees is me on my phone.
Well, and I don't want to I don't want to use this as an excuse, but I guess I'm gonna. But because we work in like a creative field that's not like a traditional 9-to-5 job, there are things that don't tend to follow the same rules of like, oh, this is for the office, and I'll tackle this when I get into the office. And so, like,
Yeah.
when inspiration strikes, or you have an idea, you need to, or if if there's a production and someone's like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock, but we need this answered right now, it can be
But
hard.
see, I have started to, because I used to, like, I would get emails and, like, auditions and, photo shoots would come through and all sorts of stuff. And I used to, if someone told me to jump, it was always, how high? And I'll do it twice
Yeah.
as far and whatever. And I have recently started implementing, like, no, if it's a work email, if it comes through after, like, 6 or 7, like, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching my
Yeah.
phone. I'm not looking at anything until the next morning after I've had my coffee.
And you do kind of have to condition the world to understand, like, that's
Yes.
how this person operates. But there is a
But also
transitional
'cause
period.
not if, but when we have children, like, I think it's important not to be on your phone at meals
course.
and, like, running around. Like, it should be like a focused family time. And, when you're in bed with your spouse, be in bed with your spouse. Don't
Yeah.
be texting your buddy.
I do hate it.
You're with someone else.
Because yeah.
Well, no, I do hate that I do that. I really do. But and it's that thing in my mind that I've always been. It's sort of like I'm a bit of a clean freak and everything too, and I like things in their place. And organizing an idea or a thought, I like things
Wait,
done. I like
did you
completion.
raise your hand? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
You're
now,
like
he's
that on
looking
your-
longingly into my eyes. because
He's
he
like
sees
that on
himself.
his phone.
Well, you know what? Well, yeah, the reason that I have
Not in the real world.
zero unanswered emails is because I've so meticulously sorted my email. So it's like, spam goes into one thing. And so it's like, I know what each folder is for. But, yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's something I'm working on.
It's something I'm working on. But have you read or listened to Essentialism? Have you heard of? Essentialism is all about, you look at all the busyness that we have in life and the fact that so many people nowadays, they try and take on so many things, and you can never really master too many things. Like, to really pare down to what is, and I'm not just talking about work related, but even like in your life, what's important to you, and the number of things that people try to take on, you can never really fully commit to what's out there. So essentialism is really talking about paring down to what truly is the most important, things that are impactful and things that mean the most to you, especially family is usually at the core of that. And I love it because it is that reminder. Linda and I just have to look at each other and say, essentialism. And then we realize, no, it's not. I can leave those emails until tomorrow.
Well, that is a good thing to understand because it's so easy to get led around by life
Yes.
and sort of realizing like, oh no, you can make some of the rules, but listen, I don't want to like make gender distinctions about how our brains work, but I do find that maybe this is just me or maybe this is other men, but I'm only able to focus on one thing at a time. And Lydia can multitask.
Yeah, I'm
And-
like all over
and
it, where
so-
I can have multiple conversations at once that probably don't make sense to anybody.
So the times that I will get sort of like closed off with her is when I'm working on something and she'll go, "Hey, what you doing over there?" I'm like, "I can't talk right now." Because if I break what I'm doing, I will completely forget it and I will lose the focus and like the whole thing will come crumbling down until I get it out.
Yeah.
So I'm really bad, but she's good at like
Where I'm
sort
like
of
the
packet
cat, like,
switching and
Looking in, like, what's
Yeah.
going on over
It's so
there?
fascinating to me when you look at like your personalities. Like, there's a little bit of me in Lydia. There's a little bit of me in Chris. A little bit of Linda in each of you as well. It's so fascinating to me to see how so many different people are little bits of each other in the way they respond. And that's what that's what makes the world an amazing place. Is because we're all different.
Yeah.
We all react differently. Makes this a chaotic place as well. But I think that's for me, it's exciting to always learn how other people cope with things because it's something I can take in and understand if that's something that will work better for me or. Well, I learned from everything.
I think ultimately it is about understanding and communication and knowing. I think it's understanding and communication. And I'm not saying I'm amazing at it, but it's about understanding and communication and also that base level of like, you know, our intention is to always have each other's back, to always, you know, like there's no ulterior motives. Mm-hmm. It's like we are on each other's team no matter what, even when we don't agree on things. Yeah. So that way everything doesn't mean everything, you know, like anything that comes along doesn't mean the relationship, or it doesn't mean it's like, we had a dumb argument about something because we were both tired, or we're both overworked, or we're both this, but it doesn't mean like we don't love each other and that we're not always that, you know, it's like.
I mean, I will admit I may be a little more dramatic though. Like, I'm remembering the conversation we had not that long ago where I was like, where I literally said to Chris, I was like, haven't you ever seen Barefoot in the Park or like read the book or the play by Neil Simon? And he had no idea what I was talking about. I was like, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but that character, the lead woman, the New England character played by Jane Fonda, and that I was like, that's basically me. It's like very much all or very much nothing. And like, I think one of the opening scenes, like they're on their honeymoon and they're in the hotel and he has to leave for work and she's like, no, don't leave. Oh, is it over? Do you not love me anymore? And I'm like, I'm a little bit like, I can be very much like that, and I don't mean to, but like
that is so funny because that is Linda to a T. So I'm literally
like we'll have like the tiniest little spat about like. I can't even think of an example, and I'm like, oh my god, do you not love me anymore? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh my god, it's over.
My favorite was when we're in bed watching a movie and I get up to go to the bathroom. Where are you going? I'm peeing. I'm gonna pee.
So stupid.
Yeah. Oh my god. But I got you a bedpan.
And I am so the furthest opposite from that because I'll just be like, whether I'm going to pee or whether I'm going away on a 1-week trip for work, I have the same reaction when I leave, like, Kate, love you, kiss, talk to me a bit. And then Linda is the one that has that same reaction.
I'm a koala.
Like, she literally grabs me. I'm like, I'm literally late. I gotta go for a meeting. She's koaling on my leg. I'm like, I gotta go. What?
Well,
20 seconds.
The thing that I think is really important is that we never... we try to never go to bed with, you know, with any kind of anything. Like we always kiss goodnight and say I love you, and you know, when we're on the phone, when we leave, it's always like, you know, like you have to remember that your relationship needs to be maintained. And it's sort of like houses. It's like, oh sure, it's fun to build a new house, but to maintain a house, like you especially hear from first-time homeowners where they're like, God damn it, there was a flood and I had to deal with it. It's like, yes, you have to maintain anything that's worth having. You have to maintain. It's the day to day. So you have to make those deposits every day to like, I love you. I'm checking in. You need to know
which deposits are you talking about? Your mom just walked in the door again. What are we talking about? But no, I mean, it's very much the case.
No, actually, this was one time I was not making a filthy double entendre, and I'm now embarrassed. Now I'm embarrassed for myself.
I find the one thing, because before Linda, I'd never been in a long relationship, and that is the thing that I'm always learning is you know, sort of it's an ongoing process. No relationship, it doesn't matter what you see on TV or anything else, nobody's in that perfect relationship where there's never a disagreement or an argument, and anything that you see is like that. It's just kind of put on, and that's what you see in the front. Everyone has to go through certain moments of ups and downs, and it's how you get through that together. And we have that same philosophy. We do not go to bed angry. We get it out, we deal with it, we say I love you, we kiss. But my question for you, how many times in a day do you guys say I love you? Like, what's an appropriate number of times?
I think it's unique to the couple, but for us it's a lot. Like Lydia and I will have a full on conversation, and then 5 minutes later she'll call back and go, I just want to say I love you one more time. Like she does it all the time, and I love it because it, you know, like it means that she was thinking about me. It was important for her to let me know that, and so I find that I have started doing stuff like that more, because it feels good. And I feel like, well, if she's doing this for me, I don't want to take it for granted. I feel like maybe she wants that she wants to be able to hear that too, so that you're not just
Yeah.
giving and
taking, because it can be very easy for people to sort of get lazy, and it's like, oh, the one, you're the person in a relationship that does this, and I'm the person in a relationship that does this, but it's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, if someone's communicating with you in a certain way, it might be because they also
Want to receive it.
want to receive, like appreciate that type of communication, because that's how they communicate whatever that is. And so how do we kind of come together on that?
We had early on, because we say it all the time now, but early in the relationship, Linda literally, our sentence would be like, if it's sort of like a, how you doing? I love you. Good. I love you. It's like every other word is I love you, and I'm like, let's save it up. Let's save it up for a few really good ones in the day, like really momentous moments to say I love you.
So yours more qualitative.
Yeah.
Yours more
No, we
quantitative.
do it a lot, and I think you laugh about it, but you do it a lot as well, whether it's an emoji or,
But I know it means a lot to her too, so that's the one thing, like what Linda gives is like way up here. And then what I used to give was like, maybe she's like 100, I'm like a 10. And so if I like triple my efforts and I go all the way up to 30, I'm still 70 below her.
Well, you can't.
Yeah, but it's not like, it's like,
Not keeping
who's measuring
not
that?
keeping
You know what I
track,
mean?
yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah, but
not
a
like,
relationship can't be like set it and forget it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
unless
Yeah.
both people have that agreement. If both people have that agreement, then that's fine. But I feel like it's like a, it's a plant. You don't just water a plant once and be like, it's done. It's like you have to give it the proper soil and fertilize it. And you have to, the pot, when it gets bigger, you have to replant it, and you have to make sure that you're maintaining it.
You gotta
and
ebb
so
and flow with it,
you
yeah.
have to embrace the process of it, and not just that the sort of snapshot of highlights of like, oh, we're on a
Right.
romantic trip, and then,
Yeah.
hey, we went on a romantic trip. What's the problem? What do I got? You gotta say I
Right.
love you all the time. It's like, yeah, you have to fucking show the other person. You gotta like fucking work at it. Like you have to show the other. You have to make efforts. You
Yeah.
can't just.
You have to show it.
A marriage isn't just like, oh, we got married, so I don't gotta worry about it no more. It's
yeah,
like,
or like, I know you love me, so I don't have to show it.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't-
Right.
But
You have to show it.
in that whole, so we had a chat because again, wanting to have kids, we were talking about, we had our whole family around, and Jonathan was actually the instigator to make this worse for me. But we were talking about having kids, and when you have kids, you have to change diapers and stuff. And I sort of made a comment like, not looking forward to that. And then somehow it got turned around to where Linda says to me, she's like, wait. So you're saying you're not going to change diapers, so I have to be the one that changes
Jonathan asked
diapers?
you that.
Or he said, Jonathan asked me in a directed way
Yeah,
that
Jonathan
made
was
me look
like-
bad. And I'm like, no, I never said that. I was saying that I'm not looking forward to it. And then Linda's like, in the lack of other terms, Linda was basically saying she wants me to enjoy changing the kids' diapers.
No.
There's something
No,
like
you're
that.
getting it mixed up. I was playing along, but everyone was blowing it out of proportion, saying like, "Oh, Drew says he's never going to change diapers."
Yeah, so at the end of dinner, my
think
parents
that's
and
like all
my
men
mom
think
actually
they're
called me
never
the next
gonna
day really
do it.
upset. And my mom was like, I'm really upset because I feel that that's not the right way you should approach this. And I'm like, Mom, they're all making me look bad. I never said that. And then I said, somebody said the whole thing
The
about
call
they
for
want
mom.
you, it's different with your kids, and you want you to enjoy changing the diapers. I'm like, who the fuck ever enjoys changing diapers? I don't want to be shit on. I don't want to be pissed on. I'm like, I'll do it. It's my responsibility, but I don't want to enjoy
Oh
it.
yeah. You talk to parents who have like multiple kids, and are like, oh, you're gonna get shit on, and you're gonna get
Pee
puked
in your
on,
mouth.
and it's like
no.
a friend of mine is like, oh yeah, you'll have those moments where you'll just be at the grocery store, and then the baby will just shit up its own back in like a skunk stripe, and you're like, well, I guess I'll just leave this basket here and go. And they're like, you have to. But I'll tell you what I am looking forward to with that is just like realizing that sometimes life can be messy, and that's okay, and you just clean it up and move on. Like it's not. It's. I feel like Lydia is really helping me get out of some of my perfectionism, which is perfectionism is boring anyway. It's like it's an unrealistic ideal, and it doesn't really exist. And like there's no artistry in perfection. Like real life has.
There's beauty in imperfection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like even like some of my best stand-up shows are when like like something weird happened in the room, like a joke didn't land, or someone said something in the audience, or like I like kicked over the mic stand by accident, like leaning on it, and it's like then the best moments come out of those because those are like shared human experiences rather than everything being perfectly
Planned out.
polished and
Yeah.
planned. Like that's kind of boring.
Yeah, like my favorite part of like SNL bits is when they break, when the comedians break, and it's like, oh, they're human.
Right.
But I think
Also, you
Linda's been
can't
great for me.
plan.
What's that?
You can't plan for stuff.
No.
Like in any aspect of life, the one most annoying but true sayings. I mean, I'm not religious or anything, but the whole like man proposes, God disposes. Like you can plan as much as you want, but that doesn't mean it's actually going to happen.
No, and if you, in any aspect of life, and I think our work life as well, we've seen that, you can plan yourself to the nth degree, but there's always going to be something changing. And in the beginning, when I was growing up, I wanted to be an actor and a director. That's what I wanted to do. There's nothing getting in the way of that. I wanted to be some action superstar, but it wasn't happening. I was auditioning. I wasn't getting that. And then my life ebbed and flowed in this way that real estate ended up getting into a hosting opportunity. And if I resisted that too much, then I wouldn't be where I am today. And I think it's exciting to know that you don't know what's going to happen to you in 5, 10, 20 years and to go with it. And especially in the relationship too, for Linda and me, it's exciting for me to see myself letting go of some of that perfectionism and letting go of some of the obsessing over everything being this perfect way that it should be. And
For the listener at home, Lydia just poked my leg.
Yeah.
Like, huh?
Yeah.
He's right. You're both right.
No, you're totally right. And it's actually making life more enjoyable. And Linda and I are finding so many cool new experiences.
You can't live and enjoy the moment if you're obsessing over all the details, because then you're not being in the moment. You're thinking about a result. You're thinking about each thing. I'm curious, Linda, what you, and then I think, we're oh, wow. I can't believe we've been talking for like an hour, 20 minutes.
Oh, really?
Like 15 minutes. So what, I'm just curious to hear from Linda, like, what did you want to do when you were growing up? And like, what were your visions, and how has that manifested, and what has been surprising to you?
I'm still figuring it out. Every day I wake up, I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? I want to build a boutique hotel out of historic homes. I want to write kids' books. I want to travel the world and visit all the happiest places on earth. So growing up, I also had all those big ideas, and I feel like I'm still trying to figure it out, which is the fun part too, because now I have someone who is an implementer of my big ideas. So yeah, I'm excited for what we'll create together. And I've always also wanted to be a creative director, not knowing what the heck that meant. And now that we're here, it's like, it's just one of those things that's like a goal that you meet, and then it's like, okay,
there's more than just that.
Yeah, there's more than, the title means nothing.
You should see her notebook from when she was a kid, like right up until now. She always doodles and her creativity. That should become a movie, like all the creativity.
But then people would know how
flows through
crazy
your book.
I am.
Yeah, you really should.
So it's a long list of things. I want to have a bookstore / record shop / ice cream parlor, cafe.
Sustainable farm is one that we really want to work towards. We love the idea, or actually more of a regenerative farm, and building a space so there's.
About Biggest Little Farm?
Yeah. I was thinking about you guys because we were at the farmers market, and they were they had a booth there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Did you see the documentary yet?
Yes.
It's
I'm podcasting John Chester in a couple days. So I'm going to go to their farm, and and I'm so excited about it because there's so much about that documentary that I think is so applicable to life. Of like, you get this idea in your head of like what you think your perfect outcome is, and they would achieve it, and then all that would do is open up 50 new problems that were more complicated than
Literally
what they had before. And so, and every time they tried to fight the problem, it wouldn't work, at least according to the documentary. And so they had to figure out how to work with the problem, to implement the problem, to create this sustainable ecosystem. And I just think it was so... to me, the takeaway is like, you don't know what's coming. Even your best case scenario in your head is going to just have more stresses, more problems, more responsibilities. It's not going to fix your life. So how do you, it's okay to grow and it's okay to, want more, but how do you work with the things that come along that are challenging in life to, how do you move with life instead of trying to fight against
embracing the chaos.
Embracing the chaos.
When I was young, I don't know if it was my dad or somebody had told me when I was a kid, the saying, like, don't sweat the small stuff.
And my dad used to say that all the time.
Yeah, but somebody added on to that to me that, the whole saying, don't sweat the small stuff, just the big stuff. But guess what? There's a missing sentence, and my dad said the missing part is, it's all small
That's
stuff.
what my dad said. Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I put that at the end of my last comedy special because that was his thing. Don't sweat the small. Now, granted, my dad was an obsessor. He sweated a lot of small stuff, but because he did that, he learned because as you get older, when you look back at like everything that I obsessed over and stressed about and was anxious about, like almost none of the worst case scenarios came true, and I wasted all that time You know, like
Yeah.
all those valuable inventing minutes. You know, like
I'm
we're
the opposite of inventing stresses.
yeah.
I'm like the anti-manifested stress.
Oh, and she's great about because I will immediately catastrophize. I'm like, okay, we're getting a dog. The dog's going to be a big dog. Do we need to start moving stuff
He's already
around? Like,
talking about how it's gonna pee places, and I'm like, I've never had a dog pee in there.
what if we get up in the middle of the night and trip over it down? And she's
I'm
like,
like,
why are you inventing? And I go, I'm just trying to be prepared.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I talked to Linda about that because sometimes she'll go to worst case scenarios nonstop. I'm like, I'm not going to live in a bubble. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to enjoy life. Let's enjoy life. But it's so funny in relationships though too, because then the next conversation it'll be her talking me off the ledge for something that I'm the one that's
Yeah,
over exaggerating
right.
something. So we balance each other
I then
so
try
well.
to stress him out even further sometimes because he'll be going on about something that's not real, and I'm like, yeah, but we're like our family's almost complete. It's gonna be like me, you, the dog, and then our twin girl. And he's like,
There's a high occurrence of twins in her family. There's like, oh, of course.
Both sides of the family.
Oh,
I see him on
yeah.
mine, yeah, twins
Oh, nice.
everywhere.
So you're gonna have quadruplets.
Oh, God. Yeah, and I'm like, take it easy on that one. Take it easy on that one. So, yeah, but I do think it is sort of realizing that and then also, just making sure that you're always on the same team with each other
Yeah.
is my guess. What's your big piece of relationship advice as we're sort of winding this down?
What would you say? Have a good pet name for each other.
Yes, Drewby.
Ruby.
I mean, I think I said this earlier, but I think it's not enough to just feel love for someone or something. If you have a passion or you feel passionate about something, then you have to show it. Because, why leave that unsaid when you can put it out into the world and make someone feel better?
And I think one thing I'm still learning because Linda is so romantic and I try, but I feel
You're very romantic.
I try, but I don't think sometimes I'm at her level. But it becomes a fun thing to always try to challenge yourself, and it doesn't have to be something big or expensive or time consuming, but just to do little things, to continually do little things, and to remember to always date. We're not just because you're married doesn't mean you shouldn't go on dates anymore. And I think
You mean like on Tinder? Like just
yeah. Find other people on Tinder. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
She's on Twinder. Yeah, it was
Twinder!
yeah.
Oh, that would have gotten you points on it.
Oh my god.
Twinder would have gotten you points on it.
She, but that I think we have so many people we know that don't. They've been married for years and they've never gone out without the kids or something. Just on the two of them. And I think if you remember to still have those sort of fresh, sort of just date nights where it's the two of you connecting, I think that's important to keep the relationship alive.
I mean, whatever you nurture will grow, and if you're nurturing negativity, if you're nurturing like isolation in your relationship, that'll continue to grow. But if you even in just those idle moments, just nurturing, hey, I just want to tell you I love you, or hey, I just hey, why don't we go to dinner at the just those little deposits really do. They really do pay off and bear fruit in the long term because you're investing in the relationship. Like you're putting into it. I don't know. What's your relationship advice?
I mean, it wouldn't be any different than anything you guys are saying. Like, I'm one of those people where I'm very communicative, I'm very expressive, but I also show my emotions, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a great thing.
Good.
Well, if I love you, then it's good.
She's screaming at you and has sharp objects.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important to be honest and true and to put in the effort, and it is like maintaining a home. It's maintaining your life and maintaining your love, and make sure that you build upon it and always put in the time for one another, and not just like hanging out, sitting next to each other, distracted on a device. Like you actually have to be focused and present.
This is the perfect time for us all to lean in, hug each other, and say, "I love you."
There we go.
Love you.
I love you.
Love you, Teddy Ruxpin. I love you.
Katie, we're not trying to leave
That was
you
a
out.
bear. That was a bear hug.
Yeah. But I really, really appreciate you guys being here. You've been such great friends, and we've so enjoyed just being in your lives. And it's like I always say this, but as you get older, when you're younger, you sort of just hang out with whoever, and then as you start to get older, you realize like, oh no, I can choose the friend group that I want to be with, people that are fun and people that inspire me and people that are, different but also like-minded and stuff. And so we cherish your friendship, and we do
We do
like
too.
the game night we came to the other night was so funny. I am so embarrassed I
Oh, yeah.
What?
We had a good laugh.
well, okay.
I could tell it's a lot funnier than he says. I'm going to tell my version of it.
We'll play a he said, he
I don't know
said.
what you guys are talking
We're all
about.
sitting around playing. We had like 12, 15 people there,
Yeah, something like that.
And we're playing our board games. And so Jonathan and
Playing
Zoe
Codenames.
were running late. They came later on. And so we're playing code names and stuff. And as we're all there, we've been there for hours. We were eating, we were sharing laughs and having a good time. And then we're playing code names. Then Jonathan and Zoe show up and come over and say hi to all of us. And then
We all
Chris
kinda
gives,
get up and take a
Yeah,
break.
well, Chris gives Jonathan a hug, and then everyone's kind of talking. And then I walk around the table, and then Chris turns around to me and says, "Hey, so are you going to stay with us and play Code People or whatever you
Code
call
Word?
it? Code Word?
Yeah.
You going to come play Code Word?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Code Word. We've been playing Code Word. Do you want to come join us for Code Word?" And I'm like,
And Drew's like, I've been playing with you
for the last 2 hours.
I had the realization of like, I can't fucking believe I just did the full on noob. But by the way, you guys, to me, you look similar, but you're so distinctive. You were wearing a fucking hat, like you had,
And I have a beard.
and you have a beard. But Lydia and I, like, we're not late night people, and by that point, it was like,
you can see it in your eyes.
yeah, and so when I hugged Jonathan, I turned around and you literally stood in the place he was in. So my brain spatially had placed Jonathan there. When I turned back around, there was no, like, I just didn't see you. I was still.
I wish I saw the look on. I could see the look on my face.
Right.
I was so confused. But the honesty in
wish
your
I had
eyes when you were
witnessed it.
asking
I
this
saw
was
it.
quite
I was
quite
crying.
enjoyable.
I was so embarrassed because I would never confuse. And it's like, I can't believe I just did the thing that a lot of people probably do to them. And we're like really close friends, so it was,
It was funny, but I could see you were tired.
I
You know,
was.
it's all good. And I know Lydia was tired because you were up the last 3 days in a row gardening.
Right, yes.
And no sleep.
But also, I also just want to throw a shout out to Jonathan for the birthday party that he planned and for Zoe
Zoe's
was
birthday.
It was amazing.
unbelievable.
Oh my
I
gosh,
had given him.
so fun.
He was like, "I want to do this 80s themed party. Do you know anyone that has like an Ecto One and then also a DeLorean from Back to the Future?" I go, "As a matter of fact, I do." So he connected with them, and then but the level of detail, there was like a fucking dance party, and a woman came out and lip synced Madonna and was dressed like Madonna. He had like neon signs of her name and a great band.
Every table had a different board game from
Yeah,
back in the
it was
80s.
so
Like
cool.
Sorry.
Yes.
The Canadian version of Sorry.
Yeah.
And then like Hungry Hippos. And it was great. Like, that
That's
goes to
so
show, too.
awesome.
Attention to detail.
Well, you guys are good manifestors. You're very good manifestors. You know how to make things happen, and I also love you guys as a couple because you do balance each other out in that way. And I think a relationship has a good balance. You don't have to be exactly the same type of people.
No.
Lydia and I aren't, but we like the same things, and ultimately we're always rooting for each other. And I think that's it. So I hope this has been at least educational or enjoyable or fun or whatever for anyone listening, and I hope people listen to your podcast at home.
you.
It was so much fun to do, and I'm so glad you guys are opening up, and because it does help people see you in one way and then they see you as human and they go, oh, he's just they're like us and we can learn from that. And so I appreciate your willingness to let people in a bit.
I hope that our podcast is one of those little deposits that all of you
It's a
guys
good
really
deposit.
enjoy. It's a really positive deposit.
It is a positive deposit, and that's the other thing I appreciate about you guys. And when there's so many toxic news cycles out there, like people who go out of their way to put positivity in the world, to make people feel okay, to make them feel connected, to make them feel loved and appreciated. I just think it's refreshing and it's important. So I really do feel like what you guys are doing is important.
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you all.
Enjoy your burrito. Oh, and then we'll have to text each other as we go down the path to Kid Town.
Oh, yeah.
It might be weird to be like.
We should do.
It might be weird if you get a text at 1 a.m.
Depositing now.
I was like, are you going to start texting him and be like,
It's go time.
I don't know how you guys did, but I think
That was the best 30
on.
seconds of my life. We'll cut back a little. We'll chat a little, but maybe.
oh my god, the end.
I love how you were thinking the exact same thing. I was like, you're going to...
ID10T scanning complete.
Enjoy your burrito.